The Seed of the Areoi by Paul Gauguin. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're looking at one of the most striking and spiritually charged works of Post-Impressionism, Te A no Areoi, which translates from Tahitian as The Seed of the Areoi, painted by Paul Gauguin in 1892. But before we step into the painting itself, we need to understand the extraordinary and deeply troubled man who created it. Paul Gauguin was born in Paris in 1848. His early life was restless. He spent part of his childhood in Peru, worked as a sailor, and later became a successful stockbroker in Paris. Painting was, at first, merely a hobby, but by his mid-30s he had abandoned his career, his wife, and his 5 children to pursue art with a kind of obsessive, almost reckless devotion. He befriended Vincent van Gogh, a friendship that ended in the infamous incident in Arles, and grew increasingly disillusioned with European civilization and what he saw as its spiritual emptiness. In 1891, Gauguin left France for Tahiti, seeking, in his own words, something primitive and savage. What he found there became the foundation of his most iconic work. He was drawn to Polynesian mythology, ritual, and the natural world. Though historians today rightly note that his gaze was often colonial and exploitative, particularly in his relationships with very young local women. His legacy is, therefore, genuinely complex, a revolutionary artist whose personal conduct remains deeply troubling. With that context in mind, let us look at the painting. The Seed of the Areoi shows a young Tahitian woman seated frontally, nearly nude, on a richly patterned blue cloth. She holds a small shoot or seed in her hands, a gesture that is quiet, deliberate, and loaded with symbolic weight. Around her, Gauguin has assembled a lush, almost otherworldly landscape. Brilliant yellow palm fronds frame her figure like a halo. Clusters of pink flowers bloom in the middle ground, and behind everything, 2 dark mountain peaks rise sharply toward a luminous, pale sky. At her feet sits a woven basket filled with tropical fruit, and beside it, a white tiar flower. Who is this woman exactly? The title gives us the key. The Areoi were a semi-sacred society in ancient Polynesian culture, traveling performers, priests, and celebrants connected to the god Oro. They were figures of both fertility and ritual power. By naming the painting after them, Gauguin presents this woman not merely as a portrait subject, but as something mythological, a vessel of life, a divine seed-bearer. Now look at how Gauguin constructs the image formally. The palette is bold and deliberately unnatural. Her skin is rendered in a warm golden olive, a tone that Gauguin used frequently across his Tahitian works, and which owes more to his painterly imagination than to straightforward representation. The blue of the cloth beneath her is deep and decorative, almost like a Japanese woodblock print, covered in white floral and geometric motifs. These are tapa cloth patterns, traditional to Polynesian textile art, and Gauguin reproduces them with evident fascination. The composition is frontal and hieratic, meaning it recalls the formal poses of ancient Egyptian or Buddhist art, figures that face you directly, without flinching, almost as if they exist outside time. There is no perspective in the Western academic sense. The background flowers and mountains press close, flattened against the picture plane, creating a dense, tapestry-like effect. This was absolutely radical in 1892. European painting was still largely governed by illusionistic depth and realistic anatomy. Gauguin discarded all of that, deliberately. Notice also the woman's expression. She looks at us, or perhaps through us, with a calm that is neither welcoming nor hostile. It is simply still. Gauguin was fascinated by what he interpreted as the timelessness of Polynesian life, and that quality of stillness, of existing in a kind of eternal present, is encoded in her gaze. The small seed she holds is the emotional and symbolic heart of the image. A seed is potential, life not yet realized. In the context of the Areoi society, it also carries darker overtones. The Areoi were historically reported to practice infanticide to preserve the purity of their order. So the seed held in her hands may be life, but it is life held in tension, in a moment before it is either planted or extinguished. Gauguin painted this work in the first year of his Tahitian stay, and you can feel in it the excitement of a man genuinely overwhelmed by a new world. The colors are jubilant, the composition is confident, and yet underneath all the vitality there is a seriousness of intent, a desire to make art that could carry spiritual meaning the way the great religious paintings of Europe once did. Whether he succeeded and at what cost remains a subject of genuine debate. But what cannot be debated is the visual power of this canvas. The seed of the Areoi currently hangs in the Museum of Modern Art in New York, and it continues to stop visitors in their tracks, not because it is comfortable, but because it is alive. That's all for today's analysis. If you found this interesting, please like and subscribe and leave a comment below about which Gauguin work you'd like to see covered next. See you in the next one.